right, so mine is where does Trump's presidential running mate JD Vance stand on marijuana? And I kind of want to point out too that just like Kamala Harris talking shit right before Biden picked her to be VP, Trump did the same thing, and so that always scares me from both sides. When people feel a certain way, they say have these morals and stuff, and then as soon as they're called up or someone taps them on the shoulder to have some kind of power, they get amnesia about all of that stuff. So I just wanted to put that out there too. Both sides in this election, I feel like have been talking shit about their new running partner. So former President Donald Trump has selected Senator J.D. Vance, a Republican from Ohio, as his running mate in the 2024 presidential election, a choice that could have implications for marijuana policy if the ticket is ultimately elected, given Trump's mixed record. I think he seems he really tries to stay on both sides of this, and Vance's opposition to certain modest cannabis reform proposals in the Senate. Vance, who was just recently elected in 2022, doesn't have an extensive cannabis policy record, but his limited actions and comments on the issue indicate that he's aligned with Trump on one key issue. He backs the rights of states to set their own marijuana laws. He's also indicated that he's against incarcerating people over low-level possession. However, he voted against bipartisan banking legislation that passed in committee and has argued that states have enacted legislation should increase enforcement activities, complained about the smell of cannabis multiple times, and suggested that its use can lead to violence. And then I wanted to play a little clip here in his own words. So this is a debate night in Ohio. Can you guys, I want to make sure you guys can hear this, otherwise I got to change something real quick. Can you hear this? Can you hear that?
No. How can we do this?
Let me do this. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Not to be soft on crime, because a lot of times you'll hear somebody thrown in prison for smoking a joint, which like I just said, I don't think that's a good idea. That's not something that we should be doing. But that's just true on paper. And if you look at the underlying charge, you'll see it wasn't just that they smoked a joint, it's that they smoked a joint and then beat an elderly woman over the head with a pistol. Those people should go to prison, and just having pled down to a so-called nonviolent drug offense, they should still be going to jail. We have to be careful about how we do this. We don't want to be soft on crime for people like that.
All right. Can you guys hear me again?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It takes a second, I think.
Well, I can agree with what he's saying there, though, right? Like, if somebody's committed violence,
that's a very specific. That's kind of what I'm getting at, man. It's a very specific case. It's not like everywhere in the country someone is smoking a joint and then beating elderly people. And that's the part that I don't like when people start to come into power, like JD. He's brand new, basically. We have no idea how he stands, and it does seem like he will change his positions and views. He compared Trump to Hitler in the past. So that's what I mean from a political standpoint. I don't want to influence anything. I just like to point out both sides, at least in our world, are just ridiculous. And it really is almost like WWE. Once someone's about to get the belt, if you will, everything kind of changes, and it seems very scripted in the way they're talking. There's a lot of parts that kind of scare me. And then I have this last little part here. This is also a quote from J.D. Vance. If you look at some of the strategies that have been tried in Portugal, some of them have been tried in certain municipalities in the United States. And what you end up seeing is drug overdose numbers go up, addiction numbers go up, he said. So I think Portugal's approach could work here. It would have, frankly, already worked. So basically what he's kind of saying is the exact opposite, in my opinion, of a lot of the research that's come out about how cannabis reduces, across the board. It doesn't even matter your ethnic, almost like whatever you're addicted to. I even saw one recently that was talking about crack cocaine and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that I think people could, you need that release, if you will. And so if someone could kind of find that from cannabis, I think cannabis de-stresses a lot of things, where in the past, I've had friends that have been addicted to a variety of drugs, and I would say that was not de-stressing anything in their life.
You bring up a good point, man. It's like, for all the people who have been beaten over the head with a gun by somebody who's stoned, how many people have not been beaten over the head by a gun? with somebody who's stoned because of cannabis. They get high and they think, you know what? I'm not gonna go punch that fucker in the face. I'm just gonna leave it. Many, many, many more than the people who've been beaten. You know, you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
Not many
there's
pistol whipping clubs, are there?
Yeah, that's right.
There's a cannabis club here in Colorado. It's called Tetra Lounge, and it's a cannabis place, basically a cannabis bar. But the way the rules are, you pay like a membership fee, and then you have to bring your own cannabis. They can't sell the cannabis. There's never been a fight there whatsoever, like a brawl where the cops, anything. And the place has been open, I think, for over 5 years. Where if you just walk down the street, there's a street called Larimer Street where all like the bougie people hang out and stuff. And there's fights there every single night because it's fueled with alcohol. And no one talks about that in my state either. They're like, okay, if you really want to look at this, why don't you look at these bars at 1 o'clock in the morning, and then walk over to the cannabis and see what those guys are doing. You know, they're fucking playing video games.
Yeah,
very slouched down in the couch. Yeah, man, it's such a different vibe.
Yeah, it is for sure, man. And it's ridiculous. They must see it. This is the thing. You can't not see it. You know, the stereotypes of being a cannabis user makes you non-violent. So for them to say crazy things like that, there has to be some kind of agenda behind it, in my opinion. You know, as there usually is.
I'm kind of wondering, you know, just JD Vance is talking about this guy who smoked a joint and beat somebody in the head with a gun, butt of a gun. Was that person who beat that person in the head with a gun also drinking? You know, were they drinking beer and then smoked the joint? Because that's a big difference than just smoking a joint.
And Green Grocer here in the chat brings up a good point. It says some old women can get handsy. You never know. This woman might have attacked this poor innocent guy. He's just chilling there smoking a joint. She's come up, you can't smoke that cannabis around here, sonny. And she's like, shut up, bitch. Smash her around the head with the gun. There we go. Yeah, this is the story told in full detail.
The image that he tried to conjure up there, you know, somebody hitting a woman with the butt of a gun. I've actually never heard of this before. I mean, I'm sure it's happened somewhere, but it definitely doesn't happen every day here. I guarantee you that. And
you can't just blame the cannabis. You know, cannabis was consumed for sure, but is that the cause? You know, it's ridiculous to just blame cannabis for it like that.
Yeah. Has anybody ever known anybody? I'm personally, I'm going to answer first of all. I have not, but has anybody ever known anybody who smokes weed and gets violent?
No.
Not anymore.
The only time I've seen that is when people enjoy cocaine and cannabis. But
it's not just the weed.
That's the cocaine, not the weed. Yeah.
Same thing with alcohol and weed. Same thing. You know, you'll see people get crazy then, but that's the alcohol doing it, not the weed.
It's the same in my town too. Like if you go downtown to where the bars are after last call and the people are coming out, like the police presence down there is ridiculous, and it's necessary because fights break out all the time, and it's and that's crazy. The difference.
That's it, man. There's a big difference. It's a clear difference as well. So what else was JD Vance saying? Do you think that he's going to be... I mean, it seems as if they're for just passing the decision down to the individual states. It's not going to be a federal thing, right?
So he doesn't have to make a decision.
Yeah. He did the same thing. Well, I guess he got the Supreme Court to do it with the Roe versus Wade. He just put it back to the states.
Yeah.
Which... some people are very happy about, and obviously some people are. They feel like they've been.
It's a controversial one, man. Yeah,
absolutely. And my wife's really into it, so like I feel like I understand both sides as best I can, being
Well, why they're even going back and reversing like old Supreme Court decisions is also baffling to me too. But
yeah, it is kind of weird to be like, all right, this is the one we're going to go after, when almost the whole world is kind of burning, and then they're focused on a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean by this is just smoke and mirrors, in my opinion. There's a lot of camaraderie behind the scenes on both sides of the aisle. And I think that's why, this is my opinion, that's why Trump scares the elite so much, is because he's not a part of that. He doesn't need their money. And that's what they've been used to for decades.
If you have enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you for the full show on Sundays on youtube.com/high on homegrown. Thanks for watching.